Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we've got him. Okay, so, as many of you are well aware, Avatar: The Last Airbender live-action series just premiered in its entirety on Netflix. And yes, I was fully unaware that it was dropping, as of this recording, 2 days ago. Even though I was following, the news and all that, and how apparently they're reworking Sokka to not being so, I guess, sexist, which is his character arc in the entire show. So I don't know what the hell that's about. Also changing some other things that are kind of like, yeah, it's an adaptation. It's not going to be, beat for beat the exact same thing, just in live action, okay? If that were the case, then we would have a Psycho type of thing here. You remember Psycho? The 1960 film? They actually remade Psycho in, the 90s, and it was literally beat for beat the exact same thing, except in color, and with Vince Vaughn as, Norman Bates, which was not good. It was fairly boring. So yes, I watched the first episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender live-action series, and I gotta say, as a Avatar fan, okay, after watching it, not as it aired, but, later on in life, and it being the fifth most favorite series of all time for me, at the very least, it's in the top 5, okay? I gotta say, this is 1,000 times better than the Last Airbender movie, okay? That being said, anything is far better than the live-action Last Airbender film, okay? But just how good is it standing on its own? Well, let's just dive into it, shall we? First, let's start out with the good, which surprisingly is going to take a long time because there's a lot of good in this show, surprisingly. I'm shocked as well as you are, okay? I'm really pleased that this show has a lot of good. So let's start with it, okay? Let's start with it. So first of all, these episodes are a little under an hour long, which I gotta say, complete relief. With this being Netflix, I was kind of revving at the fact that we're gonna get 8 episodes of this show when, the animated show was 23, 25 episodes, But luckily, they're all a little under an hour long, with the range is an estimated little under an hour long. So I gotta say, thank you for that, I guess. At least we have that. Also, each character is, representing of their own race. It's not like, the water tribe or white people and all that, which, yeah, that was a little weird in The Last Airbender, but I'm not going to talk about race anymore. I'm going to say the main kids on this show, they're doing the Lord's work, okay? They're really very well done. They're not, Haley Joel Osment in his his performances that he's done when as a kid, but they're doing a fairly decent job, okay? I can see them really trying, especially Sokka, okay? And we'll get to Sokka later, but Sokka, the actor who's playing Sokka, he, I think, balances a lot more, at least in this episode, him being a warrior and him kind of being the weird dunce type of character as well. I think he handles that fairly better than the animated show. I know, right? In this show, he's more of a kind of a warrior first, and then he's kind of like you can see his dunceness kind of second. But, in the animated show, he was more of a dunce in the overall arcing show and all that, In this one, he's more sassy, which I gotta say, at least he's got a little bit of his character left. And personally, I enjoy the fact that, yeah, he's kind of a warrior. He's got to grow up a little bit more instead of just, being kind of the jokester that we all know and love. I like that interpretation, I gotta say, Of course, the animated Sokka will always have a special place in my heart, but as for the live-action Sokka, I like him. I really do. I really do. Sue me. As also, you can probably tell by the trailers, but the majority of the budget, I can clearly see, went to the action and the CGI. And I gotta say, the CGI, it ain't that bad. I mean, we actually get to see Appa fly in the daytime, which I can't believe that I am even seeing this, Appa flying during the daytime, because, a lot of films and TV shows love to have their CGI gigantic monstrosities kind of show up during the dark because that's easier, but Appa is flying during the day. Granted, a lot of the times he's far away when he's flying and all that, but still, a lot of the times we see him up close. It's wow, I can't believe we see him. And he actually looks adorable, unlike, the live-action movie. I'm not going to talk about the live-action movie anymore because that just makes me depressed, but still, he looks like a really decent design and all that. Also, the action, come on. It is, oh, wow. Okay, come on now. That's amazing. There's a lot of just fantastic action scenes in this one episode, okay? The bending in this show, okay? It's literally, listen, okay, you can badmouth the fact that it's not a copy-paste version of, the actual animated show or whatever, but the bending is literally, it looks like they're ripping the pages out of the animated show and they're just bringing it to the screen. It's so good. And surprising enough, I dare I say it, surprising enough, they did do some changes in this show that, surprising enough, I could see where they're going, and I actually enjoyed some of them. Not all of them. We'll get to the bad, but I liked some of the changes that they made. Like, for instance, the beginning of the episode, actually, let me say this, in the animated show, we get a flashback episode to when, Aang kind of discovered he is the Avatar and all that, and, he how he ran away and all that type of stuff. Here, we take that flashback and they just put it at the beginning of the series, which I gotta say, at the beginning of it, I was like, why exactly are they doing that? But then at the very end of the episode, we see him going back to the air temple and seeing all of the destruction and all that. And, they saved that for, like, the third episode or something like that in the animated series. And I gotta say, that was a nice touch, okay? We see the heights of the air temple in the beginning of the episode, and we see the lows of the air temple now at the end of the episode. So I gotta say, that was a very creative choice. Very nice, very well done. And yeah, basically, that's most of what I have to say that's good about this show. There little bits of it, it's actually fairly well done. Oh, actually, one more thing that I remembered. The deaths in this are surprisingly gruesome, okay? You actually see dead bodies and all that, and yeah, it's gruesome. I'm surprised they got away with this in TV PG show. You see, like, dead, like, skeletons and, like, charred bodies, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's wow, okay, they got away with that. I can't believe they kind of got away with it a little bit in the animated show, but this one, it's more gruesome. I mean, I was shocked that Nickelodeon even allowed that to happen, but there we go. And yeah, that's all I have to say. That's good about this episode. It was fairly decent, fairly well done. And now for the bad. And unfortunately, there's a lot of bad in this episode. Let's talk about it. So the first thing right off the bat is that there's a lot of boardroom talks in this episode where a lot of, people just sit in a room and talk about the danger and all that, which gave me very heavy prequels from Star Wars vibes that I don't like. But then again, they are mercifully short, so I'll concede on that supposedly, but still, I'd rather them not necessarily talk about the upcoming danger and all that and just show us like the animated show did, I guess, that type of thing. Which brings me to the next little thing here. They really love telling and not showing, let me tell you, okay? And I get it, right? It's going to be a huge budgetary thing here to show absolutely everything. But it's a showing medium, okay? You got to show and not tell everything. Telling is for novels and books. Showing is, what this show is about. That's what the whole thing is, Like an example, okay? Right off the top of my head, they literally almost gave us character rosters, right? Like they basically, it reminds me of like that Suicide Squad thing that they did, and like that Transformers Age of Extinction or something that they did with the robots and all that, the bad robots. They almost gave us basically a character roster just through the dialogue and all that. Like we see, like it's basically like a card, we get the picture of Aang and all that, and we get to see everything he knows and loves, and then what he does, what he wants and doesn't want and all that, Like in the show, there's literally a scene where he's just explaining the fact that he apparently is the Avatar, and he doesn't want the responsibility and all that. He literally says that, and we haven't seen anything to the contrary. We don't know this Aang. We don't see what Aang wants. We don't see what Aang needs. All we see is what he tells us, and that's basically it. And it's the same thing with Katara, and it's the same thing with Sokka, and it's the same thing with Uncle Iroh, and it's the same thing with Zuko. And yeah, it's basically that whole thing. Now, we do get just a touch of Uncle Iroh's, jasmine tea fetish, which I gotta say, when he said jasmine tea, I screamed. But that was just references, it's a touch there, but it's not completely there. And I get it, right? There's 7 more episodes of this series. I get it. And, they set up most of what's going on in the animated show kind of fairly the same way, except in that we see a lot more. We get the reason why, Aang doesn't want to be the Avatar, because he wants to be a kid through, surfing on the seal penguins and all that type of thing, Him being kind of a careless dude, this Aang is very, like, just there. He's just kind of, just going through emotions, and it's just like, he's ready. He's ready to do everything. He's very stoic. I don't understand. It's not not the actor's fault. He's giving it all he's got, okay? Again, cannot emphasize that enough. The actor is giving it as much as he can, okay? It is the writing, the script. Yeah. Also, there are 2 very big things that are kind of omitted from this episode that I was just like, What? Why would you admit that? And the first one is how exactly they knew that Aang was the Avatar. You know, in the animated show, we see that he picked the same toy or something that, other avatars picked when, they were kids and all that, which, explained it enough, right? In this show, they explain that he is the Avatar because he's so gifted or something like that. And I gotta say, there's a lot of gifted kids. How is this kid supposed to be the Avatar? Okay, he has shown nothing. I have seen nothing different from any of the other Airbender kids, except for the fact that, he's got his tattoos early on. Other than that, I don't see how he can be the Avatar. And the second thing that really needed more explaining or a little bit more show and not tell or whatever, is when they're at the Southern Air Temple, and, he's seeing the destruction and all that, and he goes into the Avatar state and starts, getting very emotional and all that. He just comes down after, it basically exploding, And in the show, it was supposed to show that, Katara and Sokka, when they come together, they symbolize the love that Aang needs right now, the stability that Aang needs right now. In this show, he just comes down for no reason, except, he remembers that, his master, his airbending master says he will always be his friend and all that. That's it. I mean, if I was Aang, that would probably make me feel worse and make me go more Airbender style and all that, which, yeah, I mean, we got a hug at the end of it, I suppose, but yeah, it's just too little too late, at least in my eyes, at least in, oh, gosh. Also, last but certainly not least, the dialogue in this show is basically kiddie and very atrocious. It's almost as bad as any Nickelodeon sitcom or whatever. It's that bad, okay? And that corny. It's so flat. The dialogue is so flat. And I know these kids are trying. They're trying their hardest to make it sound appealing and funny and all that, but it's just... They're not even Daniel Day-Lewis, okay, could make this dialogue any funnier or any more appealing, okay? Nothing can save this script. I mean, literally, Katara and Sokka's grandmother is barely in this, and most of it is just spouting, animated series dialogue from the animated series, like... Literally, the grandmother in one of the board meetings in this one episode, like this one of the 3 board meetings in this episode, she literally gives us the opening of the animated show. Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony. Then everything changed with the 5 nation attack. She literally says that, and I was like, "Oh, wow, why? Why? Huh? What?" I understand that's really well-written dialogue, but it really sticks out when the dialogue in this show is so bad. Now some dialogue is fine, okay? When especially when I guess the board meetings are happening, the dialogue is serviceable, and when Uncle Iroh and Aang are actually talking, that was actually pretty decent as well, but then there's some that's just like Aang's trying to say sky bison, and all that. And it was just like, oh, cringe, that type of thing. And I was like, okay. But yeah, that's my interpretation of this episode here. Avatar Last Airbender live action series, season 1, episode 1. And yeah, it's got some issues, but it is far better than the live action film, okay? And it's got some potential. Like, for instance, when they cut out a few things, I know maybe one of them, with the whole thing, finding out how Aang is the Avatar, with the toy and all that. Maybe it will happen later on in the series, just like in Percy Jackson. Apparently, it was like a remixed version of it type of deal, like from the books. So maybe it'll be different, and maybe we'll see it. I hope, because that's big context that we're missing from this show. But yeah, honestly, this is a fairly good adaptation, I don't hate myself watching it, and I'm just going to continue watching it, There are some blatant issues with it, but I think the good just hardly, overtops the bad here, okay? Just barely. Like, it's seeping over, but it's seeping over nonetheless, okay? And I've seen the Rotten Tomatoes score on it is like 61% or whatever, and I would say, yeah, for this particular episode, yeah, I can agree with that. I normally don't agree with the Rotten Tomatoes scores, but yeah, for this episode, I can see it. But yeah, I can't wait to go on this, 7 more episodes of this show, and they're all waiting at my disposal. So if you don't see any episodes, it's just because I'm lazy. But anyway, though, guys, what do you think of this episode? Does it rock? Does it suck? Do you think it's better or worse than the animated series? Or is it the same? I think it's roughly the same. The animated episodes, the animated show is just more consistently good and really, really high. Whereas this episode has very high highs and really low lows and kind of evens out. But anyway, though, what do you guys think? Comment, let me know. And don't forget to subscribe. Ring that bell. More vids coming your way. And hey, take care, guys.